Hi everyone, Mike Handcock here and Chairman of the Circle of Excellence group of companies. Welcome to our Global Intelligence Update today. And today we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of having a topic that we're talking about, for instance, marketing, sales, customer experience, health on the road, the well-being of chickens in Florence or anything like that, today we're going to be talking about some of the things that have been happening for the people who are within our Circle of Excellence. And I wanted to kick off with Stuart Patton. Hi, Stuart. Welcome to the call.
Hi, Mike. Good to be here.
Great to see you. Lovely to see you. So let's start off by telling everybody who you are and what you were doing prior to meeting us at Circle of Excellence Group.
Okay, so my name's Stuart Patton. I'm based out of Malaysia. I've been in Asia 23 years, but my background is basically corporate. I've been in business, and I was doing manufacturing activities in China, doing some things in Indonesia with mobile technology, etc., and started getting involved in education. And I met Mike and Londi through the education link, because Mike and Londi were mentors to the lady I worked with, one of my partners here in Indonesia called Antam. So I think I met Mike and Londi for the first time 7 years ago, Mike?
I think I have a photo from about 2018, I think, or 2017 with you.
Yeah. So that was our first interaction, right? And then pretty soon after that, Anne and I went to South Africa for a Platinum Mastermind session with Mike and Londi, which was awesome because we did lots of things there. And probably that was one of the things that stuck in my mind to lead me to what I've got involved with today, which is a little bit different in a way to education, but it's something that's starting to really take a hold in a big way.
So let's go to what you're doing today and tell us how that's developed from that. And then I'm going to dig into the launch of that. Welcome to Joni, etc., who has come on the call.
Sure. So at the back end of COVID, I developed a brand called Me2We, as in ME number 2, that's into number 2 and we. And the reason I made that brand came to my mind was Me2We was a philosophy about people maximizing their own potential, but not at the expense of other people. So to be inclusive, basically, and to find a brand that would go across boundaries, look at collaboration, but mainly from the perspective of kids from K-12 to 18 years old. So not necessarily adults, okay? To teach them those sort of values. And then the idea was that we launched that by using a fashion line. So, and the reason I did that was because I had a business partner I'd worked with before called Michael Herrera, who goes by the name of M. And M was a fashion designer from LA for the likes of Britney Spears, Black Eyed Peas, these sort of people, okay? So, and M's done fashion shows in New York and Paris and these sort of places. So I reached out to M and said, look, I've got this idea of this brand. Do you like the values of the brand? And can we use fashion as a billboard to get the values of the brand out? So not necessarily fashion brand, but using the fashion as a billboard to get the brand out. And that was our discussion. We spoke about it for about 6 or 7 months. And then we launched the first program to kids here in Malaysia about a year ago. And it was called The Global Business of Fashion, where we taught kids about fashion, but not necessarily from a perspective of just runway fashion or design, but the business of fashion, what it takes to run a fashion business. Because part of our education, the Me2We education concept, is entrepreneurship, to teaching kids how they can make a business out of, I wouldn't say their passion, but let's say things they have an interest in. So that was a big backdrop to it. And that was super successful. And we had kids from 4 or 5 different countries zooming in to join the program. They weren't always live, they were online sometimes. But from that one program, we decided also what we'd do is we'd use Michael's network. So then I'm using clout, Michael's clout in his industry, Michael's network, and we'd use existing successful entertainers, because we decided to do our business was going to be focused on the world of entertainment, to be our creative master mentors. So one of our first mentors was a singer from Europe, and the kids designed fashion for her here in Malaysia. She gave them a brief, they designed for her. And then what happened is that she came over, did a fashion show. Kids were involved in the fashion show. We had about 400 people there. So the kids designed the fashion show, designed the production, made the products for her, ran the whole show. And that was in like a 9-month program. But at the end of that, the kids couldn't believe what they could do. Oh, it's incredible. I can make a fashion show. I can do this, right? So they were so enthused about what they could achieve. But off the back of that, we then launched further programs. And we've done a program recently with Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees. Some of you guys might know 98 Degrees, the band 98 Degrees. So Jeff, we went down to see Jeff in the Philippines. He was performing to a crowd with his band, 20,000 people in an arena. 4 days later, he's talking to a bunch of kids here. So the kids get this understanding of these people can do this, but I can also access and talk to them. And our goal here is for these sort of people who we call our master mentors to become, in a way, life coaches for these kids. Because when they talk to the kids, they tell them stories, not just, I've done this, I've done this. They tell them their life story, what happened. And when you see a kid hear a life story, they're wow, I could do this. This is for me. So all of these things around education have started to happen. But because we're doing education, suddenly now we start talking to people like Xi'an, the big fashion company in China. And they say to us, hey, can you guys come here and set up an office in China? Because we kind of like the fact we can do education and fashion. That would be cool. Now, I don't know if you know Xi'an, but they're one of the biggest manufacturers in the world of fashion.
Yep.
And they built a huge campus near Shenzhen in China. So we're now going to open an office in China in September. And we'll take kids to our China factory. Now, this is not a factory as you'd imagine in the past clothing factories. This factory is using AI and robots. So you can make a product in less than 3 hours and ship it anywhere in the world. So our kids will now also get exposed to this, right? But off the back of that also, because of our relationship with recently our conversations with Jeff Simmons, we're now doing a fashion show in the Philippines. We're doing a fashion show somewhere else. So my point about all this is this network that we've now got into, and I recognize the importance of the network, is this network has incredible clout. So this clout has allowed us to go from an idea 2 or 3 years ago to now potentially a global brand in the next 2 to 3 years.
And Stuart, you've leveraged the Circle of Excellence network pretty well as well. For instance, on the launch of GREAT. Tell us just a little bit about that. We'll just take about 2 or 3 minutes more, and I'd love to hear. Then we'll finish off with one more question.
Yeah. So when I did the launch of the fashion brand, I decided to do it in a rainforest in Malaysia, which seemed a good idea at the time. But the idea of doing a rainforest was because I wanted to show that we're using eco fashion and that fashion could look really cool, and it'd look even cooler if you're in a rainforest. So I reached out to some of the guys in CAV, the ones who had been involved in videoing and doing different activities. And I asked them to fly over. So I flew them over, in that case, from New Zealand to our show. I had other people involved in COE who were doing logistics for us, who were based in Malaysia. So I got into a COE network and I saw who could do what. And I reached out and said, hey, can we work together on this? And I'll give you this, you get this sort of exposure, and you give me that. So we have this leverage going on in both directions. They would help me and I'd help them get more exposure. And so I used a lot of COE people initially to get a level of activity going. And so we can imagine we got incredible footage of this fashion show. It was on a huge hill, which is a huge rainforest in Penang in Malaysia. And we had drones flying around the hill. So as the drones zoomed down, there's a fashion walkway going through the forest, as it were, right? So we had all these visions to use later on as we build our brand. And that was all thinking about going forward. But I couldn't have done this without the help of the guys from COE. I mean, I got a lot of support from those guys. We also flew over people like Jamie Jones from Open One, and we got some celebs there. But I got a lot of support and help from all my colleagues in COE. That made a big difference to get the whole thing moving in the first place.
Because I think one of the things for you has been that you've always seen the value of network, probably more than most have in Circle of Excellence, and you've tapped into it quite well. For instance, you know, in something else that you're involved in, which is Young Entrepreneur X Factor, I don't know how many Circle of Excellence members would have mentored and been involved in that program over the last 5-6 years. It'd be more than a dozen, right?
Yeah, that's international now. We started here in Malaysia, but now it's international. So last year it was international. Last year it was in Indonesia. Maybe next year it's going to come back to Malaysia. But yeah, we tap on a lot of COE members because, you know, they don't always understand, but the knowledge and experience they have and the insight they have is really important for kids to hear. Yeah. Because, you know, when a kid's talking to a teacher's teaching something from the point of view of content. When you talk to somebody who's using it every day, they give you context, how to really use it in the real world. And kids are always looking for, yeah, but what's that mean? Why do I need to learn this? But when somebody's talking to them from the point of view of a context situation, which we do in X Factor, it works super, super well. And kids normally go on from there to start their own businesses. That's where it leads to.
Absolutely. So sort of my final question for you, because I've got probably one more minute, is you've never been involved, to my knowledge, in fashion before. You were on the wrong side of 60 when you started your fashion label, and it's going very well. What do you think is the future for Me to We? And included in that is, how can other people get involved, if at all?
Well, first of all, I don't think how old I am, Mike, but thanks for reminding me. But I think it's one of those things, you know. Because I've always been creative, so to me, fashion is a creative industry, and I've been looking at it because I know Michael's a good friend of mine, but underneath Me to We, I've also got my own fashion lines. Now, you know, and I push myself to do these things because I think, why not? If I can do it, then kids can do it, and vice versa. So I'm launching more brands this year under this umbrella brand. But because we have this Me to We brand, and because now we have celebrities talking about it, it draws more and more opportunities to us. And this brand, the brand value now is pretty high. The brand revenue is very low, right? Because we're not there yet. But the perception we're creating and the buzz we're creating is really, you know, is really great. In fact, you will see on Lead magazine, when it comes out quite soon, later in the year, if I may say, Mike, that Michael Herrera, my business partner, is on the front page. Now, you know, so Michael.
And it's great. I saw the front cover for the first time yesterday, and it is an incredible front cover. People are going to be blown away from it. Stuart, I just have a couple of seconds left, so please finish up.
Yeah, so I think basically I would say that the thing that's really, really important is I think always nurture your networks, because you never know when the time's going to be right to make those networks work. So always nurture good networks, always stay in contact with people. And that's what I found with Me to We. So many people I've gone back to I knew 10 years ago are now super important in helping me go forward. So never disconnect with people who you click with and who you want to work with at some point, but not know when or don't know how.
Beautiful. Thanks, Stuart. Can we give Stuart a big round of applause? Yay. That's Stuart Patton. He's an amazing entrepreneur. Obviously not from Malaysia originally, but Stuart, thanks so much. I'm going to move now to Joni Petty. Hi, Joni.
Mark, apologies for being late. I had a comedy of errors, but I'm here.
Oh, that's all right. No problem. I'm just going to get rid of Stuart off the screen here by removing the spotlight on him.
Hi.
Before I come to you. So, Joni, tell us a little bit about, you've been doing the same types of things for quite a long period of time, right? So tell us what that is.
So yes, for quite a long time, I have looked at resilience and how do people bounce forward. But kudos to you, Mike, and to Lundy. I can remember like it's a movie, like it was yesterday, that we were sitting in Santon and you picked up my website, my LinkedIn, you looked at me in the room and you said, Joni, these are not congruent. The woman I see here, your online presence is shocking. And I had to sit back and say, he is absolutely right. So I've been doing the same thing for a long time, but I rejigged when I joined Circle of Excellence in terms of my online presence and how I present myself now in different ways, online, offline, and things like LinkedIn. I did a post the other day that got 12,800 impressions. So thanks to you, Mark, I now am getting noticed out there.
Well, you're definitely getting noticed, but it's a funny thing, Joni. And I mean, I think with all of our high-end clients, and Stuart's the same. I mean, we don't consider you to be clients. You're just friends of ours who we happen to do business with. But it's so funny digging back into that meeting, because I have another story that I sometimes tell, and that is that you came to a prior meeting with us several years before, a few years before that, as I recall.
That's right.
And at that point, I think the word that would sum you up is very frustrated. You were very frustrated within yourself, right? You're obviously trying lots of things. It wasn't going that way. And at that point, I think I said to you, you're not ready for us.
That's right. And you were spot on. I wasn't ready. I didn't know what I wanted, where I wanted to go, what my value proposition was. And I wasn't in the right mindset for Circle of Excellence at that time. So it's a readiness and a fit, and timing in life is everything.
And then the funny thing was that when you came back in the meeting that you just related to, you said to me, after I said that not so kind thing about your website and your LinkedIn, you said to me, Mike, am I ready now?
That's right. I did. I said, am I ready now? And it was exactly the jolt that I needed at the time. So I felt ready, but I needed to get that reassurance from you that this timing is right. And I remember, maybe just in terms of, the psychology of, I remember looking at my diary that morning and thinking, bugger it, I've got to drive half an hour to this silly thing, strategy meeting with Mike and Lundy. Last time I wasn't ready. That's an hour out of my day driving. Do I really want to go? Oh, but they had said there are only a few of us in the room, so there's no ways I can cancel on the day. So I was frustrated yet again driving there. And then your clarity, your honesty, and your you weren't at all unkind. You were just clear, honest, and to the point. And I'm like, this man is spot on the money. And that's when my gut, my heart, and my head said, I know I'm ready, but let me check with them if they think I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, you were definitely ready. And so maybe tell us from that day to now, what's happened in your life? Where are you now?
Yeah, I'll give you a kind of a put your safety belts on. I'll be fast and succinct. Is that the Lundy getting me to do my blueprint was a big breakthrough in my business. So I remember doing it a couple of times, and a couple of times she said, Joni, you haven't cracked it. You haven't cracked it. I can't hand you over to Mike until you've cracked this thing called the blueprint. And it was during COVID 2020, and I was locked into another bedroom because we each had COVID at different times in our family, and we were trying to keep apart. And I cracked it at 2:00 in the morning one morning. And I'm like, I know I've cracked it. Like, Lundy's going to get this little drawing from me. This is it. It's come to me in my dreams. And I did feel like I've cracked it. And then I'm just going to keep on the topic of blueprint. Is I then started playing with it. It worked really well, but it became too complicated. And actually, in the world of fear, overwhelm, and uncertainty and unprecedented change, my clients, multinationals, need simplicity at the far side of complexity. So I've done a second iteration of the blueprint. So that blueprint really was like a linchpin for me in my business. It gave me mental clarity. It gave me confidence. And I love the way that Stuart said, we should really nurture our networks. And just speaking to the networks at the various Center of Excellence, Circle of Excellence and Center of Excellence meetings gave me a lot of confidence to say, okay, now I don't need to show off with a complex blueprint. I can make it much simpler. So I'm going to mention just 3 other points. I then wrote a white paper last year on my simpler blueprint and sent that out to clients. That got some tremendous business, so much so that I thought there's another book in this. So I have finished a leadership book. It's with the editor. And then the third point is that the sense of confidence from loving what I do, doing what I love, and being nurtured by the 2 of you, Mike and Lundy, and probably more than you realize, is that I then was nudged to throw my hat into the ring, to put my hand up to say, hey, I'd like to go for vice presidency of the Global Speaker Federation. So that happened. And I think it's a beautiful journey, all of this, because when one boosts one's confidence, one mixes with the right people, you ask for feedback, you get some guidance, then you just start to level up to be the best version of yourself and feel very, very comfortable in your own skin.
Well, I think that's 100% right, Joni. And I think that what I'm seeing here, and by the way, just so everybody knows, there's 21 people that vote on who becomes the vice president. I only have 1 vote, and you can't lobby. You'll get thrown out if you lobby. So, Joni was a very consequential winner. She won quite strongly. So that just is a show of, I think, the strength that you have within you. And tell me now, these days, what are you focused on? I know you're super busy, like even to get you on this call is really tough because you're just everywhere. I know you've traveled a lot in the last couple of years, but what's the future hold for Joni Petty?
The future is a lot more keynote speaking globally. And I'm focused on this book, which I am loving more than life itself. And the book title is, wait for it, From Can't Do to Can Do, Adaptive Leadership, 9 Human Leadership Skills that AI cannot replace. So I'm really focused on that and then taking it to the next level. So I'm not only going to be launching the book later this year, I've got a very robust can't do to can do leadership, adaptive leadership assessment. So I've got 2 versions of that, a short one for workshops and a longer one for leadership journey. And then I'm collaborating with people in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi specifically, and seeing how they want to take some of my can't do to can do adaptive leadership framework. And they then go and use it in Riyadh and other places in the Middle East, and they teach it in Arabic. So it will be translated, and I'm going to build a network of people who will use my book and assessments and the framework in different ways. So the future is looking very, very exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think you're picking up a pin from us there in terms of licensing your intellectual property to other people who are going to be utilizing it. And in this particular case in the Middle East, which is great as well. And it's not the first time you've done this, because you've been in a business with a product before that's, I think, been in over 100 countries. So
that's right.
So I think that's something that you've done very, very, very well. By the way, folks, if you've got any questions that you want to put in the chat for Stuart or for Joni or anything like that, please do. I think what we'll do is we'll do them at the end. Joni, any final things you want to add?
I think the final thing, if I could speak to my younger self, and Stuart, I won't tell you how old I am, but I would have put up my hand and asked for help more often. Yeah. I think that's been if I look at my character and my way of being in the world, is like, let's do something, and I'll, put my, guts into it, and I've got a lot of grit, but I haven't been very good at asking for help, and I wish I'd asked for help. And this tribe is a tribe, there are quite a few friends on here. I see Alex, I see Diane, I see a few other people that I know well, is that I think we should all lean on each other a little bit more, and it doesn't take time. I'm always happy to give people time when they ask for help, but I haven't been so good at doing it myself.
Yeah, exactly. And thanks, Joni. And just to speak to that a little bit, there's been a couple of times over, particularly in the first year that you worked alongside us, where you'd say in your gracious Joni way, oh, crap, I should have asked about that 6 months ago. I would have saved myself 6 months. When you finally asked and got an answer and you realized that was actually easy, and you'd been dealing with this issue. So many people do that. I have to teach myself to do it as well. Joni, thank you so much. That was just wonderful. We really appreciate you. And I'm just going to remove your spotlight there. And I'm going to go to Alex Pryor. So hello, Alex. How are you?
I'm well, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm actually great. Thanks. Really, really good. So you've been around our environment now for around about, it's not quite 2 years, is it?
It's just over 2 years now.
Just over two. Oh, yeah, it's just over 2 years now. You're quite right. And in that time, you have moved from, well, for a start, you've moved totally to now being a full-blown entrepreneur, and we want to speak about that. Whereas previously you started and you were actually in a corporate. But by the same token, you've also moved much more into the speaking zone and starting to develop your own products and launched your book. So I want to pick up about the book. So tell us where you got the idea from the book from, and then tell us a little bit about how it came about and sort of what reaction you've had to it.
For sure. So I can honestly say, Mike, that the book would not have existed if I hadn't met you. Because very first time I met Mike, we were in one of the mastermind sessions they ran, been contacted. I'm like, may as well go along, see who I can meet. And what happened was Mike told us, like, you must all stand up and tell us what you do. Duly did, stood up. Hi, I'm Alex, and I am in Web3. Mike didn't even let me finish my 2 minutes. He's like, no, stop. Looked around the room, said, okay, who here knows what Web3 is? And not a single hand went up. Not one. And there were some technical people in the room.
There was a guy who'd been 30 years as a CEO in technology, and he had no idea what Web3 was.
Yeah. And it was just such a light bulb moment, because I spent 20 plus years in technology at that point. And as technologists, we forget that the rest of the world has no clue what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So that really was such a light bulb moment for me, that, oh my goodness, I need to change how I'm talking, because Dre just had that realization that you don't need to know how a car works to drive to work or to drive out to go somewhere. Why the hell should you have to know how technology works in order to be able to use it? And so from that, started working with you and started writing the book, which I called Risking Irrelevance. Why businesses can't afford to ignore Web3, and what the heck is Web3 anyway? Which is written very much conversationally in my own voice. Nikki Bush did a great review for me, and she commented that the book is as irreverent as I am. And that's very, very true. I think I at some point in the book tell you that if you remember what the something like the internet dial-up sound is, congratulations, you're old. But really it was just to explain to business people in particular what all these technologies are that make up Web3, which is really just kind of the current iteration of the technology for the internet, but more importantly, what you can do with them and why you need to know about them. And that really kind of kick-started things in terms of the journey I started on of what I was doing and where I wanted to be beyond the corporate setting.
Yeah, absolutely it did. And I mean, these days, we sort of parade you around as Africa's AI specialist, but you're so much more than that. So tell me, from your perspective, because, you know, you were head of innovation at a very progressive company before you left to do your own thing, what do you think is going to be the things, top 3 things that people on this call who are entrepreneurs from around the world are going to need to be aware of and focus on over the next couple of years from a technological space?
So I think the most important thing is to realize that you can't ignore it. If you ignore what's happening in the technology space, you are going to be left behind. That's not said to scare you. That is said as a pure statement of fact. It is not to say that technology or AI is going to replace you, but you need to know what's out there and you need to know what to do with it. More importantly, you need to figure out how to leverage it, which is actually one of the reasons why I've sort of started out my own and working with entrepreneurs exactly to help them with that. Because I think especially for those of us, and I'm looking on the call, most of us are in, let's say, the second halves of our lives, and it can be confusing. Like my kids who are 9 and 10 know exactly what's going on with technology. But a lot of the people I talk to my own age and even slightly younger, slightly older don't. So it's really about figuring out what technology can do for you without needing to worry about how it works or how technical you need to be. So that's really the first thing. The second thing is don't reinvent the wheel. A few years ago, you had to have your own app. You had to build your own app. It was a thing. You don't need to do that anymore. I've spent 20 plus years building custom software, and I will never build a piece of software again. I will happily work with people if they need it. But honestly, there is so much good technology out there that's being built so fast. Use someone else's, white label it, give it your own spin, let them edit, let them customize it for you. But please, for the love of God, do not build your own app. It's way harder than you think. And once it's launched, it only gets more difficult from there. And then I think the third thing that as entrepreneurs in particular, we need to be so careful of as technology is just whoosh, moving faster than it ever has before, is you've got to be mindful of the sort of regulatory and ethical considerations of what you're doing. Just because you can use technology for something doesn't mean you should be using it, doesn't mean it should actually be available. When ChatGPT launched, there was a brief period where you could use it to literally look up confidential details of pretty much any company out there. It didn't mean to do it, but it happened. You know, technology, things are going to go wrong. And if you're using someone else's technology, sure, it's fine. It's their problem. But how are you using it? If you employ staff, if I said to you, do you know where AI is being used in your business? Could you answer me? Could you answer it if I said, hey, who's accountable? Who's responsible if and when things go wrong? Because you don't know how to use it. Your staff don't know how to use it in a way that's safe, that's responsible, and there's more and more legislation coming down. So I'd say definitely you need to be aware that it's not just put something into ChatGPT and you're good to go. You actually need to think a step further than that as business leaders, because if not, you're going to find yourself in trouble and you're not going to understand how you got there.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I was telling somebody the other day who was getting valuations on their business. I said, just make up some numbers and put them in there related to where you are. Don't put your actual numbers into a grok or anything, because then, somebody else is probably going to know, like your competitors, what you're actually doing. So I said, why don't you 10x them or 20x them? And that way you'll sort of be able to work it out from there. Alex, what over the last couple of years that we've all worked together, what are probably 2 of the 3 things that have stood out to you as things that you really have learnt from and are implementing and have made a difference for you personally?
So the first one is absolutely, I suppose, getting more in tune with the spiritual side of the universe. It had been an area that when I sort of, did the 4 quadrants, spirituality was all the way down at the bottom. I'm not talking religion, but actual sort of that feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. And by letting myself lean into that, and Lundy's been amazing on that journey, by actually sort of letting myself understand who I am, not only as myself, but kind of where I fit into the universe, has let me take advantage, both see opportunities I never knew were there and to take advantage of them. And I felt the universe tapping me on the shoulder pretty much since I met you, saying, it's just about time to leave corporate. It's almost time, be ready, be ready. And then it's literally been in sort of the last month that the universe didn't so much tap me on the shoulder, but kicked me out of the nest and said, fly, bitch, it's time. So yeah, and it's amazing. It is so liberating to lean into that. Terrifying, but liberating. So that's definitely the first one. Second one, absolutely, is your favorite one-on-one sales question. So why did you want to meet with me today? And how can I help you in a way that you haven't been able to help yourself? Because believe me, the conversation, there's pause, like, well, actually, and just cuts through so much of the fluff that I was used to in corporate. And I think third, and I think it speaks back to what both Stuart and Joni were saying, it's the network. It's realizing that there are so many amazing people out there and they want to help. They want to both get to know me and me to help them, but they want me to get to know them. They want to help me. And being able to have that network and knowing it's them, reaching out to them, that is something I would not have been able to do 2 years ago. Just because I was very much, no, I'm a lone wolf. I must do everything myself. But I'm not. There is a tribe. You know, I have a wolf pack and they're there for me. And that's really, really powerful to know.
And the future, a quick thing on the future for Alex Pryor.
So just launched my my new business, Top Priority. So focusing on technology consulting, predominantly for entrepreneurs, but I'm still doing a fair amount with corporate, although fortunately on a smaller scale. I'm very tired of enterprise. Definitely leaning more into speaking. I love being on stage, as you know, Mike. It fills me with energy. And I'm also leaning more into writing. I haven't written fiction since before my kids are born. And whether it was denial or simply avoidance in the first few weeks after I left corporate, wrote and edited a book in about 10 days. I'm not going to say what it is right now because it is very much not related to technology. But ask me separately afterwards if you're interested in something a little bit more fictional and perhaps a little spicier.
A little spicy, yeah. We'll wonder what that is. Thanks, Alex. And it's interesting you talking about the network because I'm just looking at some of the people who are live on this call. We've got Gold Coast, Australia, Kuala Lumpur, Hervey Bay, which is up north in Queensland, Australia, Auckland, New Zealand, Gordons Bay in New Zealand, Johannesburg. Not sure, I can't remember what part of Germany you're from, Jeffrey. So now you can pop that in the chat. And then we've got Cape Town. We've got another Johannesburg. We've got the Jersey Islands, in between the UK and France. More Cape Town and Johannesburg to finish it off. So literally, we're covering a lot of the world there. Frankfurt, that's right. Thanks, Jeff, for doing that. So we've got a lot of places around the world where you can connect. So if you're looking to grow a network, if you're looking to grow your positioning, if you want to do business internationally, then all you have to probably do for a start is take a screenshot of who's on this call and then go and find them on LinkedIn and connect with them, or better off, find them through our private members club and go and actually connect with them as well. Sorry, Alex?
I said already have.
Yep, there you go. Absolutely perfect. So thank you, Alex. I'm going to go to Dovi. Dovi, are you there? You're not on my screen at the moment, so let's just see.
Yeah, I'm here. How are you, Mark?
Oh, there you are. Yep, perfect. Great. So lovely to see you here. You've been around our environment probably a little less time than Alex, but a sort of similar time as well. Tell everybody a little bit about you and your story.
Cool. So morning, everyone. So a quick bit about me. So my story is the drama is I was diagnosed at 13 with Ewing sarcoma, which is aggressive bone cancer. Third stage at the time, I was diagnosed and given a 5% chance of living. And I woke up when I was originally diagnosed and found myself in a hospital bed where I spent the next 7 months of my life sitting on my back. And I got into alternative health. So this is about 35 years ago. And I got heavy into meditations, visualizations, breathing, chi. And I was in remission within 8 months. And the doctor said it was a miracle case. And I never went back to the doctors when I left because I said, I don't need them to give me blood tests to tell me I'm fine, and I've never gone back. And I went back to the ward 5 years later and worked with about 200 kids over 5 years and taught them these practices, and that helped with the remission rate going up. And since then, I've had 9 hip replacements, 2 knee replacements, and above the knee amputation that happened twice. Long story on that. But I think through my whole journey as well, then I've gone through corporate. I worked at Accenture for about 10 years and ABSA, all basically doing leadership work, change management and training, and trying to teach people all these little tools that I've learned over life. And yeah, that basically sums me up in a little bit. And now I'm basically working, with Michael and Andy, looking at doing some interesting things, trying to get what I've learned over the last 35 years out in a way that's simple for people to understand, and easy to implement with all the noise in the world, to make space for it and look after oneself.
Well, Dovi, I think the thing is that many people listening to this, we're all trying to keep ourselves healthy, right? And you weren't trying to keep yourself healthy. You were trying to keep yourself alive. I mean, you got given one of those, well, you've got less than 5% chance of living, so, but here you still are, diagnosis, which I think is incredibly wrong of doctors to do that. But tell me, you've got a format, 4 components to it, which you really focus on. And what is that format, and why is it important?
So when I look back at all my 10,000 hours of mastery in a hospital bed, I would probably say there were 4 key things that helped me get through it. The first one was my focus. So as we all know, whatever you want, there's all the good you can focus on, and there's all the bad you can focus on, and they're both readily available to you every single day, and it's your choice to decide which you want to focus on. So I learned a lot of this being by myself, and then actually sitting with a lot of other hospital people in beds over the years, and just looking at them, and they were like hopeless, and they didn't know what they could do to help themselves. So I taught them about, focus on yourself. The doctor can only help you so much, but it's your opportunity now to basically put in the hours and work on yourself. So the first key thing was learning what to focus on. The second thing was about having an awareness of yourself. So you're going through this whole big journey that you're facing. What are you going to create? What are you going to learn about yourself? And what are you going to tell yourself what's the next steps? Because if you're not aware of the possibilities and potential you have inside yourself, you're basically outsourcing your life to someone else to look after. And it's so amazing that in that sphere, I call it transforming your 99. You'll only spend 1% of your time with a doctor, and the other 99% of the time you're left by yourself to go and help yourself. So what are you doing in that time? And it's the internal conversation you're having. So that's all about the awareness. The time element is pretty straightforward. You have 16 hours of awake time every single day. And if you link back to your identity as who you want to be, so I want to be someone who's healthy and well and vibrant, how many hours are you willing to dedicate to that identity to become that person every day? So if you're not willing to invest 1 hour in that identity, you're not going to get better, you're going to stay the same. So that's about time. And the last thing, the E is for energy. So you need to fuel this beautiful, amazing body that we all have, and you need to learn how to do it. So I learned as a young child working with Qi. I learned something called Qi Kung, which is about harnessing internal Qi, and basically working through your meridians and putting energy. And I actually, when I was about 25, I went to work with a grandmaster in America, and he could levitate for like quite a lot off the ground. No, true story. I couldn't believe it. And he could put energy out of his hands of 100 degrees into your body. And just going through that process and really learning about Qi. And I remember what he said to me is that you've got to embrace this every single day of your life, and you've got to get involved in the practice, because they won't teach you anymore unless you've covered the 50 positions in the first step before you graduate to the next person. So this is not about acquiring a skill to show off. This is about acquiring a skill to like fuel your Kuberg inside to make sure you got all this nuclear power that you can always heal yourself. And those are the 4 things that I basically teach people that they have absolute autonomy over, and they need to be aware of what they're doing in basically healing and helping themselves. And you don't even have to be sick to do this. It's just basic practices. So yeah, that's a short summary.
No, that's very good. Thank you so much. Tell me this. In the last year with Circle of Excellence, what stood out to you as being say for you, the top 1 or 2 things that you've learnt that are really useful for you?
Okay, wow, there's so many. I definitely think that the journey of going within. So I go into my head all the time. I guess that's from being by myself for so long. But it's always, what I've loved is between you and Lundy, you're always making me reflect and go deeper so I can think a little bit more about my essence, or how have I put something together? Does it sound right? And then a lot of the times, after being pushed and redoing things so many times, the penny drops and I actually realize, wow, okay, now I understand. So it's that layer that you're able to peel off so many times in a way that helps me go within. That's probably the one thing I could say. The other thing is just the wealth of knowledge that you have between the 2 of you, and how easy it is just to tap into that and you share, and it helps me kind of conceptualize what I want to do in a way that I probably would use a more linear approach in my own head, but you basically help you get in touch with the emotional side as well, which has really been invaluable. And the last thing I think is the community and the amount of people just that I've reached out to and just made friends with. And for me, it's funny. I'm about over a year and a bit with you both, but it's only just begun, because now I'm getting clarity, after working through so many layers and peeling off this onion, where I thought, yeah, I've got it, I'm ready to go. And then I started, I'm like, shit, gotta go back, gotta redo it, gotta think a bit more. Just like, it's kind of like I'm this horse that wants to run, but I'm being pulled a bit, and it's like, okay, wait, the carrot's gonna come, just give it some time. So
yeah, I think everybody experiences that's for sure. And just while I remember, so you'll see somebody on the call here today. He's just put a comment in the chat called Rowdy. His real name is Mark, okay? And he's a new member of the private members club from Hervey Bay in Queensland in Australia. I've known him a long time. And he's a Chinese doctor. He's a Chinese expert, herbal medicine and also acupuncture. And I think, Dovi, there's a good potential alliance or something that you 2 could do together. So I'm just letting you both know that in case you want to touch base on the private members club. Just one more question to sort of round off things for you is that what are you looking for in terms of the way people on this call and listeners could help you on your mission to make the world a much healthier space?
So I'd probably say the easiest thing is, I'd probably say it's awareness to me, because I find for myself, maybe everybody else, so that we know so much within ourselves. And when you know so much within yourself, trying to teach that to the average person just to make them aware is such an important step. So for me, it's about, with the combined skills of everybody in their different spheres, it's just about helping people become aware, not even to make the first step, but let them know that there is another choice, another alternative to helping themselves grow in any way in life. And I think that for me is a key thing, because I think it's a lot to touch into. A lot of people have said there's a lot of noise, and a lot of people are very externally focused, and it's hard to bring them back. And I think we have all got wonderful skills and knowledge to help people come back in a world that's constantly pulling you to go out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've also got people in the chat here. We've got Brad Cunningham saying, include me too. I'm qualified in theta healing, basic and advanced. And Claire Bosk, she's a feng shui practitioner, so I'd love to join the conversation as well. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular style of call today, just to showcase a number of you. And we'll do this again as well to showcase a number of you so that we can get you bringing things together. We can find out just simply by talking about your experiences with Circle of Excellence as well. Other people will learn. Like I loved Alex. She actually remembers my sales questions, right? So why did you want to speak to me today? And what specifically were you hoping I could do for you that you haven't been able to do for yourself so far? So just those two things are good memories that have been brought up here. Dovi, thank you so much for being on the call. And I want to thank Alex and Stuart and Joni as well. And let me just go away from that view, and I just want to go to gallery view to finish it off. Just give me a thumbs up if you felt today's call was useful and you learned something from it and you got something from it and you want to do it again. So, okay. So, I'm getting pretty much all thumbs up. So, okay, that's great. And Jeff, welcome to your first call from Frankfurt in Germany. So Jeffrey's a new member of the Private Members Club. He's a speaker who's building his career there. And we're going to help him do that over the next little while as well. So you've got a couple of big hitters here. You've got Corbus Visser on the call. He's a big speaker. Diane Demetri from Australia. You've got Dovi here. You've got Joni Petty, of course, as well as Claire Bosk. I mean, all amazing speakers in this space. So, folks, thanks very much today. I'm going to jump quickly because I do have a plane to catch. I'm actually heading to Bali today, so I'll see you, some of you in Bali in the next couple of days. Apart from that, I'll see you again on the call or online somewhere. Bye all. Catch you.